All right, here we go. Once again, thank you for joining us. We are Andre and Stuart. We are the co-founders of Evolutions, and what we're doing today is talking about how to build an emergency fund. From our backgrounds, we've got a unique perspective in doing this, and in these times when it's uncertain and everything else, we're trying to give you real-world advice on what to do, and from there, just share whatever we have with you and share with the community. Stuart, so from your perspective, I mean, you've traveled around the world, you've move from one coast to the next. You've been in different industries. What are some of the things that you've learned or you'd like to share?
Well, thank you, Andre. It's a pleasure to be here again. First and foremost, emergency fund is crucial to any sort of financial plan. You need to have a solid foundation and base for where you want to go from. And so, many people ask what emergency fund is. It's just like that. It's funds, it's money set aside for the unexpected. An emergency is not your kid's birthday. An emergency is not Christmas because they come every time around the year. Emergency is truly exactly what you don't expect. You and I have done some research, and I think the stats are 27% of Americans, when faced with an unexpected expense of $400 or more, we need to sell or borrow money just to take care of that expense. So an emergency fund is money put aside that you cannot easily access for that unexpected time, just like COVID. So right now we know that people are going through loss of wages or even their jobs, uncertainty how they're going to pay their mortgage, keep the lights on. If you had a predetermined amount of money set aside, you'd be able to sleep much easier at night.
Yeah, you hit on it pretty clearly earlier, but just to extrapolate on that a little bit, 70% of Americans do not have $1,000 worth of savings. If you put that in today's terms, like the economic stimulus package, if you did get money, $1,200, you're still right on that verge of not having an emergency fund because you got to use that money right away. 75% of Americans, we're talking out of 330 million, do not have a financial plan. So trying to put this together is critical in terms of what you need to do to protect yourself, help out with your future, and then also with the ones that love you. So, the other things that you touched on, Stuart, like what's necessary, like what do you think from your, I think you were part of the Dave Ramsey group for quite some time. How much money was necessary, to build an emergency savings fund? Is that like 250, 500,000?
Well, it's a case by case scenario. So the first and foremost thing you need to do is create a budget, like all things. Just like if you're going to lose weight, you need to know where you start from and where you go. Same thing with a budget. So you need to know your income as well as your outgo. And if you are a single family income, just your single source income, instability, or maybe your commission structure, you probably should have a longer period of time. Or if you're a two-family, multiple income family, or you have job security in an industry that's fairly solid, and you've been in that position for 3, 4, 5 years, maybe a little bit less. But the average is 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in your emergency savings fund. Again, if you've been in the same job for 3 years, you have dual income source. If one person loses their job, the other person can catch up the slack. 3 months is probably good. If you're a single source person, or as well as just heavily commissioned quarterly, probably that 6 to 8 month range. And truly what you do is you look at your expenses, your outgo, not the entertainment budget, not the shopping budget and whatnot. It's those necessary, Maslow's hierarchy expenses. Food, shelter, transportation is important. You need to make sure you can pay for gas and car so you can actually go to work when you have a job. But those mainline expenses, because heaven forbid, if there was a tragedy, you're going to probably cut the cable expenses. You're certainly going to cut the extraneous shopping and so on and so forth. So it's really not just what your income is. It's not as if you're buying a wedding ring where you say it's 3 months worth of salary. No, it's 3 months worth of necessary expenses, 6 months worth of necessary expenses. And in a time like this where people are losing their jobs, people are cutting out the Netflix, the cable bills, and so on and so forth. People are not driving, going places, going to entertainment. You're not going to sporting events and games. So those are extraneous expenses. It's really making sure you pay your rent, your mortgage, the lights on, be able to also put food on the table for you and your family. So on average, it's 3 to 6 months, but it varies per family. And also what you feel from your risk assessment. I know personally, I sleep better knowing I have 6 months, where other people sleep better knowing they have 12 months worth of emergency savings funds.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then in terms of like a real world exercise, so my background in finance, what we've done is people prepare to save money. Take a weekend, take a couple days, print out your last 3 months worth of bank statements, go through with the highlighter, which ones are absolutely necessary, which ones were just impulse buys, and what can you cut in terms of subscriptions. Like those are the silent killers out there. if you've heard of an app, perhaps like whatever these savings apps may be that can help you identify monthly subscriptions, it really adds up quick. $14 for Netflix, $15 for Microsoft, $12 for Disney Plus, $5 for ESPN Plus. So no, not to hate on
I'm
anybody.
not cutting ESPN Plus. I don't care. But anyway, keep going.
That makes sense. You got to watch these Jordan and NBA highlights and everything else. So I totally get it. And then just other than that, like you got to figure out how easy or how hard it is to access that money. If it's too easy, right? You save that $1,000 and you're gonna, I got $1,000, I'm gonna go spend it. What we found is like if you could possibly create two different accounts, right? Whether it's a checking savings account, whether it's two accounts at two different institutions, make it a little bit harder to access that money. So when you need it, it's there and you haven't used it on something frivolous. Anything you
Yeah,
want?
exactly. The tendency, to your point, Andre, is people will just put it in their savings account, which is typically attached to your checking account. So heaven forbid if you ever or overdrawn your checking account, your savings just rolls right into that. There should be your emergency savings fund should be a completely separate account, and that's easily accessible, and probably like a checking account that accrues interest, or maybe a money market account that has a debit card ability attached to, so you can actually pay bills. And should be out of sight, out of mind. And I'm a big fan of automation. So whatever your income is, you go through your bills. Whatever your daily income is, your outcome, you just say 10%, or every paycheck, I'm gonna put $100 here, $100 there. And you know that, okay, if my emergency savings fund should be $10,000, most people don't have the ability, as you stated, to sit there and just move 10,000 from their checking to their savings account. But you start in small chunks, $100 every week. So now you have, a $400 supply, $4,000 at the end of the year. Or as you start cutting those expenses, like you said, Andre, I take away my $14.99 a month from Netflix. That goes into my emergency savings fund. Another key point is whenever you have that calamity where you actually have to dip into your emergency savings funds, everything else stops. If your car broke down, or if your water heater broke, or if, heaven forbid, there was some sort of medical emergency, you dip into that savings fund, you stop your investing, you stop your entertainment until that emergency is done, and then you put all your resources back to filling up that emergency fund tank, and then you go back to normal life. The last piece is, especially with the COVID-19 going on, if you or yourself and your family has a medical history where you're going to the doctor often, you have more surgeries coming up, and just medical calamity, you probably should build up your emergency savings fund more than just 3 to 6 months. Even though you have insurance to cover that, you have to also cover for that emergency is also covering for that deductible.
That makes sense. What I'm curious to know, Stuart, you've consulted for multiple businesses, whether it be, sports or international consulting. Like, are you seeing like recurring themes when people are trying to save businesses or save for emergency funds or rainy day funds when they're a business owner or a small business owner, stuff like that?
It's the same principle, right? So a business should be run just like you run your own, personal finances and your budget. Obviously, it's a little bit larger and there's more at stake. So I have my family, my significant other, and my kids, but now you have employees, 500, 5,000 employees. So a business wants to stay cash flow positive, and you want to have money, they call it in reserve. So you have this money that's floating out there in case something happens. It comes from a natural disaster emergency, or even just a bad sales quarter where you can still recover and not have to go through layoffs or furloughs or anything like that. As well as an emergency savings fund is important for a business because sometimes there's unpredictable extraneous resources, but you still need to sit there and, revenue, sales cures all. But you also, while you're servicing your clients, you also need to have money set aside for product development, product assessment, product advancement. So that's an emergency savings fund, but also just pure planning. So cash flow positive is always greater to have more money in the bank than not.
That makes sense. What we'll do is we'll take a quick break right at this moment, and we'll come up with some other things that are real world applications that we can apply now in any given situation. Welcome back, everybody. We just went over a couple different ways to think about building an emergency savings fund. And then also we want to share with you a little bit more in terms of what to do in terms of real world application. So, like I've taken coaching my entire sales career. And one thing that has always taught me is like it's mindset, right? Like no matter what, it's in terms of you need to get that right if you're ever going to have a situation where you can achieve a goal. So small things that we were able to do were actually, they put us through the test, and it was very hard, but it set us up for times like this. So, trying to create an opportunity where you're living off of 50% of what you're making.
Mhm.
So, you're making $1,000. I know it's going to be tough, but putting away $500 into a savings account or whatever it may be, and just trying to figure out how to live. You got to think of where you started. I know for me, first generation, coming out of college, I probably made like 30, 35 grand a year. And now look at, what you're doing next is like, and still having that ability and that mentality to save was huge in terms of, being ready for a situation where you can live by your minimum. What about you, Stuart? Like anything that you apply for your learnings and everything else?
Well, it's an excellent point, Andre. Like living below your means is key. The tendency is you get that first part-time job and you're super excited about it. You got $15 an hour, $20 an hour, and you start managing your budget that way. And you get your first full-time job where you just graduate from college. And the natural tendency is you want to reward yourself. I just graduated from college. I spent 4 years or 5 years now. I want to buy myself a car. And now all of a sudden you're at a deficit again. Or you get the next promotion. You want to reward yourself. And you just, as your income comes up, so is your living standard. So you still feel the same amount of pain. When inversely, if you just stay the course, kept your bills all the same, your income goes up, so is your joy and happiness, because this is all just disposable fun. I can start investing. I can start planning for retirement. I can start living the life I want to live versus that immediate return. So as you know, I was a former Olympic level athlete. And of course, 4 years down the line, having the flag being raised for the gold medal around your neck, that's the ultimate carrot. That keeps you motivated. But it was difficult 3 years prior to justify give a 5 a.m. on a Sunday for a long run, even though I know down here I want to have a goal. So the ability to have success in athletics and sport and life and business is the ability to set aside immediate gratification for the long term. And your emergency savings fund is just that. It's like health insurance. Health insurance, you put it away, or car insurance, you put it away every month, a little bit. You didn't get in a car accident, you didn't go to the doctor this month, but you need it just in case. Same thing with emergency fund. The tendency, like, I just got paid, I got that bonus, I want to go out and spend some money, I want to celebrate. No, put a certain amount of money away each week, each paycheck, each month, automatically. Most businesses now, most payroll systems, you have the ability to say, I want X amount percent to automatically go to investment. I want X amount percent to automatically go to the bank account. If you never see it, you won't touch it or feel it. And to your point, if you can live off of $50,000, you can certainly live off of $75,000. And another way to test it, I found, is in partnerships. So if you're married or if you have a significant other, you have two household income, go ahead and see if you can live off one household income. That way, the extra money, the income, can go for savings for your emergency savings fund, retirement, or even putting down for a house. But also, that, heaven forbid, if myself or my significant other lost their job, we can make it.
Yeah, I think another thing that, try to figure out how to use technology for your leverage. So like right now, obviously Craigslist's been around for a long time. OfferUp's been kind of new into the area. It's like, man, go through all your stuff. I'm sure there's things that you can sell to try to get to that first $500 for the first $1,000. Just go through your garage, go through your living room, do whatever it takes. Like when it comes down to, like you said, the necessaries of food, utilities, transportation, all that stuff, it's going to be more important than those pair of shoes that you'll never wear once a year. Another thing that comes up to mind was that really had an impact on me and how I view everything is like, there's always these sales, right? Like if there's something on sale that was originally $100 and it's 25% off, you're thinking, wow, great, I saved $25. Actually, it's a flip mentality, because that's what marketing does for you, right? You're saving 25%, it's great. Really what it comes down to is like, man, you're still using $75 of your hard-earned money. What else could you have done with that? What could have that done for you in the future? Like, is that something that you could have put away for something that's more important than, the hottest trend? And obviously we know fashion trends go in and out of style. We know the baggy went to the slim, and the slim is going to change into something else. So, it's just a lot of thought has to go into your daily actions. They always talk about those small things too, like, is the $3 Starbucks worth it for you every single day? Like, I don't know. I don't drink coffee, so for me, it's other things that I give up. I'd love to eat Ruth's Chris every other day, whatever. But obviously, that is not financially prudent for me. So never will that happen in my lifetime.
You brought up 2 points. So the mindset aspect. So if you flip your mindset, there's two kind of majoring factors here. There's the one concept of keeping up with the Joneses, where I like to sit there and say, "Ooh, my house cost this much. I spent this much money on a car. I spent this much money on a watch." So you're living up to the expectation of somebody else. The other mentality is, imagine if you lived life where it's like, I saved this much. I got such a great deal on this house. I got such a great deal on this used car versus buying new. All that savings can be put into your emergency fund. The second mindset is what you said, or the opportunity is selling something. So don't go crazy. Don't sell the dog. Don't sell the third child that you don't really like so much. But yeah, there's certainly things in your garage that you're not using that can be sold easily. It can be somebody else's, treasure box. But also another way is to get a part-time job or looking for another revenue source. So I have my main source of income. If I can start a secondary source of income coming in, I can put that to my emergency savings fund. I can put that towards investing, or I can put that towards future goals. And that's especially if you've always had an idea in the back of your head where you want to be an entrepreneur or your own boss. You have your full-time job, you're paying your bills, your mortgage, you're keeping lights on. Go ahead and look for ways to start that secondary source of income in the area or job that you're most interested in. As you get $5,000 in a month, you get $10,000 in a month, that's going to your emergency savings fund. You have a fully funded emergency savings fund. Now you can go start investing. But also, you're building that future career path. So once you get that same budget where here's how much money I have to make for my outgo, I started doing this part-time secondary job, doing 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week. As soon as those levels start to switch, you can actually do a career change. So by setting aside money for your emergency savings fund, you're resting at night better, but you're also potentially building a separate career path for yourself.
That makes sense. Another thing that was, just speaking from a professional level, is like, in terms of creating an emergency savings fund, like, this is the time for action, not inaction, or not, burying your head in the sand. So for instance, if you own a home, think about refinancing. Rates are at all-time lows. You can typically be able to do it with equity, where you could reduce your payments, save hundreds of dollars a month, depending on your loan amount, skip a mortgage payments, potentially, get a loan and have the other loan that you're refinancing, have it be a refund for your impound account for property tax and insurance. I mean, that's a quick way to save thousands of dollars, not only in the short term to create that emergency fund, but also put you in the best position in the mid to long term planning, which is what we always believe. Stuart, we always talk about building a team. Like, what's your thoughts in terms of building a team in a time like this?
Well, I think you should build a team at all points in time. In a time around COVID, coronavirus, layoffs, national pandemic, we just don't know what the market's going to do. We don't know when the economy is going to turn, if we're going to go down or north or south at any point in time. If you had a team of advisors around you, you could rest easy knowing I have a plan that's kind of like the all seasons plan. When the market's thriving, when the market's struggling, or when the market's flatline. I think a lot of times, especially when faced with a pandemic, people get nervous. They put their head in the sand and just bury it. It's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening to me. I'm just going to struggle. Imagine if you had a place where you had an emergency savings fund. Imagine if you had an investment plan. Imagine if you had a strategy and team working for you, that you knew you didn't have to rely on the government for a bailout. You knew you didn't have to rely on the leadership of the government, leadership of your own company that you work for or whatnot, but you can rely on your team that you've helped kind of steer the ship. And the importance of a team is they keep you steady. It's your plan that you build with them and their advisors. You're still the CEO, the captain of that team, but you're getting the advice from all different facets. So from your realtor, from your lender, your banker, your estate planner, your insurance broker, your financial manager. For me, my team, they talk to each other, they communicate with each other, and we have a truly holistic plan. That's what the biggest part of what evolution is all about.
Yeah, I think, what's important too is, like, even if you don't have the exact team, like, start, right? Evaluate what you have, create that financial buddy system, right? It's been said a long time ago, you are a reflection of the 5 people you hang around most. Well, if you got 4 other people buried with their head in the sand, nobody's taking action, it's going to be a challenging situation. Figure out who's doing right. They're doing the right things right now, right? Living frugally, trying to really figure out where to cut, how they're going about it, how they can communicate with you, with somebody that you trust. That's been a huge part. When I was, when we were both growing up, we had a lot of fun with a lot of people spending money that we shouldn't have been spending for no reason.
Speak for yourself.
But moving through that, right, it's like evolving in the evolutionary path of what needed to happen for me to understand and meet my goals, regardless of the timing. That was huge for me. How about yourself? Anything else?
That's it. Just the last main takeaway is to reiterate, emergency savings fund is crucial. It's truly for an emergency, so it's not the fun money. Start with a budget, assess what's coming in and going out. And last but not least, for me, automation has been key. So I have a certain amount that I put away. Whenever money comes in, X percentage goes to my emergency savings fund. And it grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. So I've been able to go from that $1,000. That first $1,000 was crucial, just so I had confidence. One, to believe I can put away $1,000, and then to know that if my car broke down, I can solve that. If the water heater broke, boom, I can solve that. It's not this whole drastic thing. And then I went from 1,000 to 5,000, 5,000 to 10,000. We don't want to go further on than that. But now knowing I have 6 months, it gives myself options. I can either not only, if emergency happens, but I also have options where if I want to do a life change, take a little break from the monotony.
Yeah, all great points. I think to summarize as well too from my side is being able to identify and evaluate is going to be huge, because understanding where you're at will give you a pathway of understanding what not to do and hopefully what to do. Secondarily, get help, whether it be a system of some sort, a change in mentality, or also just increasing the opportunity of who you're hanging around with and who you're getting information from. But honestly, this is something that we're here to help out as many people as humanly possible. If you need help trying to figure out your system or trying to figure out your team, please reach out. We're here to help. That's all I got, really, Stuart. What else? Anything for you?
That's it. Click the link in the bio, up, down. It might be over to the side. It'll be somewhere.